Welcome to JCon!
You know, there's a lot of speakers here in this event, right? And interesting enough, there's a lot of developers. Let me start different here. Let me start with something here. So, who here has ever bought a book or a course or even an event, right? That you really wanted to read, you really wanted to learn that thing, but you never even open it. All right. Everyone, right? So that's who we are, right? Developers, we are, do we love to learn? Maybe we're fictionados, right? We are addicted to learn, right? But in reality, it's not learning that's important, right? The most important thing for us, it's our skills. Is the things that we do. That's why we know that, right? That's why we buy things. We buy books and don't read. We buy courses and don't watch, right? Because we know intrinsically that the only thing that really changes is when we go and do something, right? That we apply in a project, we do something like this. And the reason we do those things, right, is because we want to be better, right? Is that what we want? We want to be better. We want to be better developers. We want to work more interesting challenges. We want to solve problems, right? We want to be well paid. Who here wants to be well paid, right? Okay, everyone does. Okay, good. So, so basically, that's what we want. Now, and one thing that we do all the time is that we keep comparing ourselves, right? Because we want to be better. So we send resumes to interviews and we don't get accepted. And we feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, so I got to study more, right? Is that how we feel, right? And interesting enough, it's very hard to compare developers. Very, very hard. People that hire developers, you know that, right? When you say you get 2 resumes, you say, I don't know who those. So when you get rejected to any job, it's not because of your resume. It's not even because of the interviews, right? Because it's very hard to even know that. But I just want you to understand how hard it is. Because really, let's see me and Chris right here. Right? Chris right here. Hey, Chris, how you doing? So who is a better developer, me or Chris? Of course it's Chris, right? Of course it's Chris. But we can't, I know it's him, right? But it's hard to compare, right? It's very hard, if you talk to us, you might not understand that. And I might be better than Chris in some things, and Chris is going to be better than me in other things, right? So it's not about how good we are. But there's an area not in our industry, but it's an area that we know very, very well who is better than others, right? It's science. Actually, everyone says trust the science, right? So in science, every scientist has a record of everything that they publish, right? You heard of that, right? So we can get 2 scientists and say who published more, right? So we should be able to know who are the genius in science, right? So here's the reality for you guys to understand, right? That's an interesting article that you might take a look later on. So why Einstein is a peerless genius and Hawkins is an ordinary genius. So those guys here, what they did is that, can you imagine trying to hire the best developer in 6 million curriculums, right? So that's what these guys did. So they went on and they compared, you can take a look at the whole thing here, but they searched 6 million curriculums, right? They used big data to search to figure out who is the best scientist, right? By looking at 6 million curriculum, right? And you know what they found? That's very interesting. There's lots of things here. I just want to show you that there's lots of things. What makes someone a genius? What do you think makes someone a genius, right? How much things they publish, how much work they did. They look at lots of things and they could not find anything that would predict someone to be a genius, right? So you can take a look at the whole thing here. Funny enough, so what does predict someone as a genius? The best predictor of a genius status was the number of languages into which a scientist's Wikipedia page has been translated. Right? So, in other words, the genius label reflects social recognition that extends far beyond the scientific community. Fancy words to say that what really matters is your reputation. Right? So, reputation, guys, is what other people believe about you. And it's not only what you do, because you might be great. Chris might be great, awesome, or maybe not, but he has a good reputation, doesn't he? Right? Who watches Chris talk here? You heard I give your talk already? No, you did not. So no one watches his talk, right? Okay. So that's a bad reputation right there. No. Okay. So what matters, guys, is your reputation, right? And we developers, we tend to think that, oh no, what really matters is how good I am, how much things I learned, how much new technology I've experimented. But reputation is that, but not only that. So there's 3 words that I like to talk about. They're not the same thing, but they're similar, right? And one is reputation, what people believe about you. The second word is trust. Reputation, trust is not reputation is trust, but they go together, right? If people trust you, you have a reputation, at least with that person. Make sense? So trust and reputation are very important things. Now, there's one more thing. Reputation, guys, is what people believe about you. So if people don't know anything about you, they don't believe anything about you, right? And so there's another word I like to say. It's visibility. So you have to have those 3 things. You have to have trust. People need to trust you. And for people to trust you, you have to be visible. If you're not visible, then you have no reputation. So what makes it very interesting, because we think that all we need to do is, go technical, more technical, learn more things, and then that's going to be all great. But that's not how it works. You have to be visible. And here's one more thing I want you guys to think about, that, it's all about the skills. Remember what I said in the beginning? It's all about the skills, not what you learn. It's about the skills that you have. And here's one interesting thing about the skills. Is skills, you only have skills when you do something. Right? Because the skills are things in your brain. The skills are biological. When you have a skill, even a tiny little skill like typing on the keyboard, when you have a skill, your brain changes physically, right? So skills are acquired physically. It's not just something ethereal in the air. So, and the only way to acquire skills is by doing. So here's something for you to think about. If you can work like 8 hours a day on something that's challenging, that's interesting, that forces you to grow, you grow more than someone that just does this in the afternoon or at night or on the weekends. So the best way to acquire skills is to be paid to do that, right? And now that's where reputation comes along, because we think that when we send a resume somewhere, right? Someone evaluates our resume. But let me tell you one thing. 75% of the jobs in our industry, not only us, I think ours is worst, but research shows that up to 75% of job offers are in what we call the hidden job market or the hidden job market. So what's that? What's a hidden job market? Let's say I work for Chris, right? Chris, you're my go-to guy today, right? So let's say I work for Chris, and I tell Chris, say, Chris, you know what, man? Living here, Europe's not working for me anymore. I'm going back to Brazil, so I'm gonna quit, right? So there's nothing that Chris can do to make me stay. So at that moment, Chris is the only person in the world that knows that he has a position, right? Because HR doesn't know that, because if Chris goes to HR is going to say, oh, no, this guy's going to leave. No, he has to leave right now, right? No, so he can't talk to anyone, right, until everything is decided. So Chris knows that there's a job. And so what is his first thing he says? He says, Bruno, that's great, but I need you. Do you have someone that can replace you, right? Any one of us would do that, right? And then if I have someone, and I say, I have Simon, Simon's a great friend of mine, right? He's awesome. He can do more work. And so let's say Chris talks to Simon and say, hey, Simon, I have this great job. It pays a lot of money, right? It has great technology for you to work with. And, it's fully remote, right? You can work from anywhere. It's great, right? Do you want that job, Simon? Sure. Yes. So I want a good job. So that position, guys, will never show up anywhere because it was accepted right there and it's done. There's no interviews, no conversation. Chris talked to Simon accepted, that's it. That's the hidden job market. It doesn't exist. No one can see it. You cannot apply to that position. Now, what happens if Chris calls Simon and says, Simon, Bruno is leaving, right? But you know what? He suggested you as a replacement, and the job that I have is very boring, right? And, it's our old technology. You have to come to the office every day. That's why Bruno is leaving, because he's going back to Brazil, right? And he doesn't pay very well. Do you want that job, Simon? No, he doesn't want that, right? So then Chris goes to the next guy he knows, and the next guys he knows, the next guys he knows, and then he tries everyone that he knows, and everyone says no. And what happened with that job? It shows up online, right? So if you want the best positions, guys, you gotta be the person that be called first. Because otherwise, that's not gonna happen. Now, you know what the worst thing ever, and that's, I think, it's borderline evil, right? I'm gonna talk about Sun, because Sun doesn't exist anymore. Okay? So I can talk about them. But everything I'm saying here works with every single company that I know of. So I had a job at Sun. Someone called me and said, Bruno, we want you. And it was for one of the most amazing jobs ever, right? It was to be the community manager for NetBeans, the worldwide community manager for NetBeans. At the time, the most important open source project Sun had, right? I met many of you because of that job. And I negotiated with my future boss for 4 months. There's many things that she wanted me to do that I didn't agree with. I wanted more money that she didn't agree with, right? And, we negotiated back and forth. And at some point, after 4 months of negotiation, we got an agreement. And, we got, I said, yes, I'm going to work for you. That day, she called later that day and said, Bruno, can you travel to Prague today? And I said, no. It was the end of the day in Brazil. There's no way I can travel, but I can travel tomorrow, right? And she said, okay, so travel tomorrow. So she gave me a phone number of someone I could call in Sun to get a flight ticket, and book a flight to travel the next day to Prague, because there's going to be a meeting with all the engineers, all the evangelists for NetBeans in Prague. So she wanted me to be there. Okay, so I'm all ready to go to Prague, right? So next day, she calls me again and say, pay attention to this, guys. because it's important, because you're not going to believe it, right? But it happens every single time with every single company I know of. Next day, she calls me and said, Bruno, HR has just posted your position online. Can you please go there and apply for it? Right? Guys, to be the community manager for NetBeans, how many people applied to that position? How many people do you think? You know, maybe someone in the audience didn't laugh because they applied for it. I don't know, right? But what I know is that I have friends of mine that called me and said, Bruno, there's an awesome position for NetBeans on Sun's website. It looks made for you. You should apply for it. And that's funny, right? But what's not funny is because I had friends that called me and said, Bruno, there's a great position on Sun website. Do you think I have a chance? That's funny, right? Now, imagine, it's kind of funny, right? Imagine if it was you applying to that and you did not know that the position was already taken, right? And so how many people applied to that position? I have no idea. What I know is that my boss also didn't have any idea because she never looked at any of those applications. And I've been interviewed to companies. You know, I was even flown once from Brazil all the way to the US to be interviewed by a big company just to be rejected. You know, right after the interview, I was just rejected. And I was rejected for the most stupid reason ever. You know, they said, really, they told me, not officially, they told me through internal channels, right? They said, we didn't accept him because he came to the interview with T-shirts and jeans. How could I, right? You know, and funny because I only talk with people with T-shirts and jeans, even the director of the company, right? But, you know, I learned later that, you know, the guy that was hired worked with the guy that was hiring before, right? So those companies do that because it's trust. It's not about who's the best. Because, guys, there's no way to know who's the best. It's about trust. It's about reputation, right? So I like to tell you those things, guys, because the moment you get rejected for a job offer, you have to understand that's not you. Now, and you can think about that's terrible, Bruno, because it's a terrible game. That's not. Well, when you know the rules, it's better, right? Because if the reality is that when you go to any kind of interview, that's terrible because you don't have any control. You know, you don't know who the person is. You don't know what your job is. You don't know how much they have of budget. You know, they know a lot of things about you because they went online and saw everything about you if they could, right? You don't know anything, and you're terrible to negotiate that. And worst of all, right? On any interview, you are doing like how many negotiations you do like this in your life? You know, maybe 10, 15. Those guys do 15 a day. Right? So they're much better. They have much more skills because they are paid to do interviews all day long, right? So they're much better at taking information out from you than you are taking information from them. So, you know, I think that is a bad game. A game that you have no control. But there is a game that you have control. And that game is called reputation. Because your reputation is your reputation. You control it. You decide on it. Right? So here is what I call, I want to just take a look for what reputation is and what I call the reputation formula, right? Because there is a formula. Career reputation. That's a pretty awesome screen to have a big formula here, right? So career reputation, guys, is a formula, right? And you can control it because you know it. So it's a formula. So there is in the upper part, there's things that if you do, your reputation grows. You have a bigger reputation, right? And in the bottom, there's things that if you do, you lower your reputation, right? Now, I want to point out there's two things about this formula. First of all, this is about career. This is about the technical career, right? So if you're an actor and you're doing movies for the big screen, That's probably different than this, right? That's for us. Second thing I want to point out is that this is positive reputation, right? Yes, you can have negative reputation. You know, if you do some really bad things, you could have negative reputation, but that's not what we're talking about here, right? So consider that my formula doesn't get negative, right? Okay, so here is the formula. That's pretty good, isn't it? Phi divided by md. Sounds simple enough, right? Sounds simple enough. Some people are taking pictures. I got a better version of it in the end, so you can take a better picture. And in the end, has my Twitter handle there, so you can post a picture of my Twitter handle. How about that? All right. So here, let's talk a little bit about what career reputation is, so we can understand how we control. Because everything in this formula here, it's you that control. You don't control your interview. You don't control the hidden job market. You don't control any of that, but you control this. Every single things here is things that you do. Now, before I go into formula, when you have a good reputation, here's my 5 steps for why reputation is important, right? When you have a good reputation, so actually let me start over, right? So when you share what you know, here's a secret. When you share what you know, like Chris, like Simon, right? When you share what you know, other people know what you know, right? And when other people know what you know, they trust you in what you know, right? And when they trust you in what you know, if they need what you know, they call you and not someone else. Make sense? That's why reputation is important. Because it puts you in the short list. Right? So, what is the reputation formula? First of all, focus. We gotta have focus. Now, the reason why people don't like focus, developers don't like focus, is because we have FOMO. That's why we don't like focus, right? You know, FOMO is the fear of missing out, right? So developers like, oh, if I focus on Java, what if something else better comes along and I don't see it and I miss it? So I gotta know everything so I don't miss anything. But we are attention creatures, right? We focus on very small things all the time. So when you don't focus on anything, right, nothing is important for you. So actually, if you try to do everything, then you do nothing, right? So focus is extremely important. Now, here's the thing for you to think about focus. Developers don't want to do focus. They because they have the fear of missing out, because they think that focus is about the tools that you use, and that is not the case, right? Focus is not the tools. Focus is the problem that you solve. You know, let's say this was a wooden roof. It's probably not, right? But let's say it is. So if I call someone here, like a carpenter, to fix my wooden roof, and the carpenter comes here and say, don't worry, Bruno, I'm going to fix your wooden roof because I'm a specialist in hammers. Do you hire that guy? You do? No, I don't, right? You know, you hire a specialist in roof that uses lots of different tools to fix your roof, right? And funny enough, the carpenter that fix closets use the very same tools, but you don't hire the guy that fix closets to fix your roof, because that's different problems, right? So when you think about focus, focus is the problem that you solve. It's not the tool that you use. And once you think about that, that's liberating, because you can use any tool that you want to solve the biggest problem that you're going after. And so you can use Java, you can use Scala, you can use Python, you can do whatever you want, as long as you know what kind of problem you're solving. Make sense? Right? So focus is important. And it's important for the next thing, because without focus, you don't have visibility, right? Because people think about you because of your focus. You know, they associate you with something, right? And so you have to have visibility. People need to know you. Talk about this in the beginning, right? So you only have reputation if you have visibility. So you have to have some visibility, even if it's inside your team. You know, you have visibility inside your team, that means you have reputation there, that means you can grow inside your company. But if you want to grow outside your company, you might need visibility outside of your team, right? And we see this all the time, right? When people have a little bit of visibility, they change jobs inside their own company. I'm not even talking about you have to go after another job. You might if you want to, but many times, you know, I have mentees of mine that when they start being visible, they grow inside the company, right? And then they become more influential. They do more interesting things. They work on more interesting projects, right? So I have a friend of mine from India, right? That because he got some visibility inside his company, right? The boss of his boss of his boss called him one day and said, "Hey, Vipin, I have 30 projects under me. I want you to interview everyone to choose the best project for you to work on. And if you can do that, if you can choose the best project, what happens with your skills? Your skills grow, right? So visibility is important, and as it is action. You know, you have a good reputation because you do things. You only have skills because you do things. It's not because you learn, it's not because you're studying, because you're reading, because you're watching videos or anything like this. You got to do things. Because if you don't do things, nothing happens, right? So you should be a person that takes action. Inside your company, outside your company, whatever you can, do things, right? And, you know, all those things combined, right? You do things and then you show them, right, to have some visibility. And, of course, is skill and experience. We're going to talk a lot about that, right? The one thing I like to talk about skills really quick here, like a little sidetrack here. Developers have this idea that, oh, you know, I got this question all the time, so I'm going to start my answering it. Right? So should I focus on the soft skills or the hard skills? Actually, that's not even the question that developers ask. Developers ask me, Bruno, is it important, the soft skills? Right? That's the question, right? Are the soft skills important? So here's one thing for you to think about. Hard skills are not hard because they're difficult. They are hard because they are precise. Okay? A precise skill is not technical skill. It's a technical because it has a technique for it to do. So for example, a precise skill that all of you have to use every day is typing on the keyboard. Very precise. If you move your finger a little bit, you don't type very fast, right? That's a precise skill. Typing on the keyboard is a hard skill. It's not difficult. It's precise, right? Now, soft skill, it's not precise. It's soft because it's a malleable skill. Every time you apply, it's different. Now, let me ask one thing. When you're working on software development, is that a hard skill or soft skill? Is that a precise skill or a malleable skill? Right? You know, when you're problem solving, right? Someone said both, right? Every skill has both things. But I just want you to understand that software development is fundamentally a soft skill, right? The language you use is a hard skill, is a precise skill. Typing on the keyboard is a hard skill. You know, your IDE shortcuts is a hard skill. But solving problems as a software developer, it's a soft skill. So don't be afraid of the soft skill because that's what you do. And the big difference between the soft skill and the hard skill is how you learn them. The hard skill you learn by repetition, the same thing over and over and over. That's why we do code katas. It's the same kata over and over and over and over and over. So we learn the language. But the soft skill is different. The soft skill, the way you learn soft skill is by doing different things, because it's a malleable skill. That's why it's so important for you to work with Java and Scala and Python. That's why it's so important for you to do desktop application, mobile application, server-side application. Not because you're going to be an expert in all those things, but because you are practicing your soft skill of software development. Make sense? Right? So don't be afraid of the soft skills, because those are very important. All right. And you got to be a giver. You got to help people. That's where community comes along. When Simon was talking to me here about the user group that he runs in Switzerland, do you get paid to do that, Simon? Right? Richard, do you get paid to do the user group? More or less. Right? We do a lot of things, and even if you get paid, we're doing because we want other people to have it. Right? You're doing for others, not only for yourself. So being a giver, that's where community comes along. So the more you help other people, the more reputation you have. Lots of people are afraid of helping other people because they say, Bruno, I start helping other people, and then I don't have time to do my own things. And that's a whole different discussion here, but I'm just gonna show you a trick. Who here has the difficulty of saying no? Yes. The people that have difficulty, that's a clear indication of givers, right? People that say yes all the time, right? And they want to help everyone, so everything that you ask. So the problem with that is that you're always doing things for others, and you never do something for yourself. So we have a name for that, right? The person that only focus on others, it's a selfless person, right? Only focus on others. But in reality, the way for you to be a good giver, right, is when you're what we call an otherish giver, right? An otherish giver is someone that also thinks about themselves. He thinks a lot about the others, but also think about themselves. So instead of you saying, people say, that's another question I get all the time, Bruno, how do I learn how to say no? The hard way, just say no, right? So here's the thing. The reason why you have a hard time saying no is because you don't want to say no. You want to say yes. You want to help other people. So instead of saying no, learn to say yes, but. It's very easy, right? Hey, Bruno, can you do this report for me? Yes, but I can only spend 5 minutes with it. So if I sit down with you, I'll show you how to do the report. Is that good for you? No, I want you to do the report. So sorry, man, I can't. Right? You can always help others with whatever time you have, but you don't have to make that something that they control you, and and you never do anything for yourself. Make sense? So that's just a quick tip right there. But okay, so responsibility is the R, right? The more responsibility you take, the more reputation you have. And responsibility can be anything. Just responsibility for your code, responsibility for your project, responsibility for the company, whatever it is that you want. Responsibility for others. Being here at an event, organizing things is taking responsibility. Organize a user group is taking responsibility. Doing an open source project is taking responsibility, right? So the more responsibility you take, the more reputation you have. And last one, consistency. Trust requires consistency. We all know that, right? If you have someone in your team that every time you ask something, sometimes they do it very well, sometimes they lash out at you, they go crazy, and they disappear for a while, and then they come back, and they're a very good developer, and for 1 week, and they work really hard, and like, man, that's amazing, then they disappear again. Do you trust that person? Right? You can't trust it because you don't know if that's going to work, so consistency is important. And I'm not talking about consistency. Oh, yes, I got to do every day 5 minutes or every day 2 hours. That's not that. Consistency is to be consistent, right? To do what needs to be done, right? To be available. Make sense? Now, really quick, the bottom ones are the things that you should not do, because when you do them, they really hurt your reputation, right? So don't be a me person, right? I do this, I do that. It's me, right? It's all about me, right? Don't do that. Listen. Listen to people. Understand what they want. Be a giver, right? Focus on others. That makes a big difference. Also, don't lie. And lie is squared here because it is bad, right? The moment someone gets you lying, they stop trusting you immediately, right? So don't lie. And the last one, don't be a difficult person, right? We all are a little bit, but don't be rude. Don't be, don't respond to people, communicate, right? Those are all important, right? So that is a reputation formula. So now you can take a picture, right? Because that's the whole formula here. So that's a reputation formula. And everything in this here, you have control. You can do that, right? And I just want to point out that some people here in this group are doing exactly that, right? So I just want to bring some people on the stage here to show some people they're doing this. But before I do that, I just want to give you a gift, right? Many people ask me, Bruno, how do I do that? How do I do the reputation? How do I plan that? And that's not easy. I can't come here and give you a talk to solve your problem, right? Because I don't understand what your situation are. But who does understand your situation? You, right? You do that. So what I found is that if I ask the right questions to someone that comes talk to me, we can uncover all the things that you need to do that. So I do that with myself. I ask the questions. And so what I did is that I put this in a little book that is a book full of questions, right? That helps you answer for yourself where you want your career to go and make a plan for your career. So I call this book The Best Developer Year. I call this book The Best Developer Year, and I'm going to give you for free here, right? So, it's a little book, right? So if you come here on this URL right here, two things are going to happen, right? Because lots of people say, so how do I contact you? So two things are going to happen. One is that you're going to get an email from me with the book. So you get a free book, right? That's going to help you, that's going to guide you through a process for you to think about your reputation, think about your career, think about your next step. The second thing that's going to happen is that you're going to get an email from me with the book, right? And so you have my email, right? So just reply to it, and it's my personal email. Just reply to it, and I'm going to help you if any question that I could not answer here. I can answer you over email, right? So, and now, what I want to think about, right? Oh, and by the way, I know I'm in Europe, right? So this here should have some GRPD, right? Message, right? So I'm the one to send an email to you. So sorry that it doesn't have the GRPD, right? GRPD, right? But so if you want, if you don't want to get emails from me once you get the book, you just say I don't want to get emails more for you, and that's fine, right? But anyway, so take a look at this. Now, what I want to think about in terms of reputation, let me go back to the reputation formula, right? There's some people here, they're doing exactly that. So I like to call here on stage. I'm going to say Matt Ryban. Hey, Matt, I'm going to call you. Right? Can I call you here? Okay, cool. So not only Matt. Let me call, what are the speakers on this conference? Are there any speaker in this conference here? I know Chris, you're speaking. Come on, who else? Who else is a speaker in this conference? Come on. Simon's a speaker in the conference. Who else? Come here. Come here, guys. Yes, come here. You're a speaker in the conference, right? Those are the visible. Yeah, come here, guys. Come here. That's the community keynote. So let's all hear. So those are the people. They are the visible side of the community, right? Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Yes. Those guys here are, yes, look, yeah, come on, all of you guys, right? So, yes, I think we can spread out on the stage here, right? Can we just go here and spread out on the stage? Yes, look how many speakers are here, right? Cool. Awesome. How you doing, man? Good to see you. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Right, so, yes, come here. Come on, everyone, right? Cool. So, yes, come on here, right? Come here, right? All the speakers, right? And if you guys don't want to be on the, yes. Hey, how you doing, guys? Hey, Miko, long time no see you, man. How's everybody doing? Good. All right, cool. Okay, so yes, so those are the speakers, right, of the conference, right? So they are the visible sides of that. All of them are very visible. They're speaking. They're on large conference like this. But there are some that are less visible. Is there any JavaScript group leader that's not here? That's there? No? Richard. Okay. I was gonna leave him for last, but then come on. All right, Richard, come here, right? So the user group leaders are the last visible ones, right? Because they're sometimes they're speakers, sometimes they're not, right? Sometimes they're just organizing things, right? So they're organizing conference, for example. Are you speaking at the conference too, Richard? No, I have to work. You have to work, right? Exactly, right? So they become the last visible side, right? So and I can guarantee you that behind Richard, you can't see right there, but there's how many other people are on the team, Richard? Right. Yes. Right? So that's the more visible part of the community. Now, let me ask here, is there any open source developer here in this conference that's not here? Yes, come on, you guys here. Open source developers, I want you to come here because those are the last visible, right? Because they, come on, I want you guys here, right? Yes, the open source developers. If you consider yourself an open source developer, come here. But Bruno, all I did was one tiny contribution to a repository somewhere. Yes, you're an open source developer. Come here, right? Yes, okay, good. You see, right? Yes, come on. Okay, more people. Yes, cool. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about, right? To help others, right? Come on, guys. Let's join together here. Why are you spreading out like this? Come on, let's get a good picture here for everyone. Yes, all the open source developers, right? I can I do one more question that brings everyone here now, right? Come on, look, guys, you should spread out. Come on, you gotta come closer. You gotta come closer. Come on, come closer. Come on. Where's the photographer? He's right here. So we're gonna take a nice picture here of the community, right? Of everyone in the community. Are we missing anyone? Hey, we're still missing me. Okay, we're missing one guy, right? We're missing Bruno, right? So we're all missing the mascots. Hey guys, so good to see you all. Hey, thanks everyone here, right? So the community's like this, guys. It's awesome. All right. So guys, that's the community, right? And you can be part of this. There's nothing that prevents you from being part of this. So the reputation formula is about doing what those guys here, guys and gals, are doing, right? And you can do that. There's no reason for you to not be here. And, I could ask some other questions, and maybe lots of you, because you're here also doing events. You're participating. The fact that you're here and you're supporting JCon makes this whole thing a reality for all of us, right? We are all here because of you. And you are all here because of us. We are a community, work on this together. And I think if we all work on our reputation, and we can make this community stronger, and we can all have amazing jobs and work great lives and change the world. All right? So thank you, everyone. Let's just take a picture here of everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Where's the photographer? You got a picture? That's good? All right. Okay, guys. So I still have 6 minutes, right? So I think I finished a little early, right? But so if I have 6 minutes, so is there anyone that's here on the stage want to share your story a little bit? A little bit? So someone that just made one commit. Who's the guy that made one commit? You. You said you just made one commit. Come here. It's way more than one, but you didn't consider yourself an open source developer. When I mentioned you, come here. Let's go. Thanks, guys. And just put your hand together to all those people there, right, guys? Thanks very much. Come here. Can I? Sorry. So what's your name?
I'm Stefan.
Stefan. So Stefan, why you only got up when I said, no, if you just made one commit?
I didn't do actively a lot of stuff the last 2 years due to job reasons. Previously, I contributed a lot to some open source project, namely Neo4j and some libraries around that. But I thought, since I was more or less quiet the last 2 years, I didn't consider myself an active open source developer right now. Maybe this changes soon, but we'll see.
Right. So you see how it works, right? Even someone that is contributing, we think that we're not doing enough, right? And that's why when we got an interview, and someone says, "Oh, you're rejected," we think that's our fault, right? And it's not, So how hard it was for you to start contributing things?
It was rather easy. So I started answering questions basically on Stack Overflow and other platforms. And at some point, I fixed some bug in some library, and then the contribution grew.
Okay. Yes.
That's typical path, I think.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this. All right. Cool. Okay. So. All right. Okay. All right. So I only have 5 minutes here, and I wanna help you do this, right? So if you think about what is the biggest dream that you have right now, what is the biggest dream that you have for your life? Where you want to get that you're not there yet? So now that you think that, think what's your biggest challenge that you have to achieve that, right? And I want to help you. So who wants to ask a question? Who wants to have a challenge that you want to discuss here for a second? Oh, you don't have to come here. Just ask the question. No one? So I'm in Germany. That means that no one asks questions? Oh, you can't compromise yourselves, right? No one has a question? Come on, I just need one question. That's after. We finished the talk, right? That's you love to complain. Okay. So what's the question? Go ahead. Uh-huh. That's a good question, right? So he had only one commit, several years ago in an open source project. Is he still an open source developer? Of course it is, right? You are a developer that has some open source contribution. But that's not the point. Let's look at here, right? Are you consistent? No, right? So that decreases your reputation. Does that one commit gives you lots of visibility? There's a little bit, but not a lot, right? So have a tiny little bit of visibility, right? Does that commit helps you focus? That one commit is not enough, right? So yes, you are an open source developer, but it doesn't help you too much on your reputation because it's one commit many years ago, right? Now, it doesn't help your reputation and doesn't hurt either, right? So here's an interesting story. Not about open source, but about contributions. You said that you are Germans, right? So you don't want to compromise, right? First of all, you're not all Germans. How many countries are here? 60 countries, right? So yes, no, so you're wrong. So so yes, how many are here? I don't know. Okay, so but I had one case. So when I started Java is a very active Java group down in Brazil, and so when we first started the first years, we had a mailing list where there was archived in a place called the Mail Archive. So many of you know that because you search things on Mail Archive. At that time, the Mail Archive did not have a feature for you to remove a message, right? So there's no way to remove a message. So people would send, stupid things to the mailing list and send me an email and say, "Hey Bruno, I send my password for my database to the mailing list, right? Can you remove that?" And my answer was no. I don't own it. It's Mail Archive, so every message is there. They don't delete, so there's nothing I can do, right? So by the way, Mail Archive has a delete button right now, so you can do that now. But there's no way to do that in the past. So then I got this message from this guy. He's like, "Bruno, I need to delete a message." And I just say, I didn't even look what it was because My answer was no. Sorry, it's not no. It's like, sorry, I can't do that, right? It's not under my control. But the guy kept messaging me and kept messaging me. And I would say, look, guy, there's nothing I can do. But at some point I said, you know what? What's the problem? I mean, let me take a look at his message to find out why he's so worried. And I went to see. And his message was, how do I install JBoss? Like 6 years ago. I mean, not 6 years. On that time, it was like 6 years previous. Several years previous, like, how do I install JBoss? I'm like, what, he wants you to read that? And then I look at the next message in the thread, and then someone replied, just open the zip. Right? Okay, simple question, simple answer. What's the problem? I was like, why? So I thought about, let me Google this guy's name. So I Google him, and that's the only thing that shows up. So the guy promotes himself as a JBoss specialist, and you Google his name, the only thing that shows up is asking how to install JBoss. Right? It should not be a problem because it's 6 years earlier, right? So that's the thing, man. You got to be consistent. Otherwise, the little good things that you did disappear, and the bad things that you did show up, right? So I would suggest that you be more consistent to do that. Make sense? So yes, you are an open source developer, but probably not one that's benefiting from the fact that you are. All right? Okay, guys, that was my time for the questions. I'm available. I'm going to be here the whole day, right? And actually, while I walk around, it's going to be very easy for you to find me, right? So you cannot miss me at all. And lots of people ask me, Bruno, why do you wear the flag? And here's the reason. In most events, I'm not a keynote speaker, so no one knows who I am. So if I put a flag, they know, and so you can talk to me. So I do this to make it easy for you to come talk to me. I'm available for the whole day here today. Thank you very much. Thanks, Richard, for the whole crew, JCon. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.